In this video, I want to talk to you about what you need to do to get advisory board roles as a doctor. Why would you want one? In many cases, doctors work clinically and are interested in doing something else. They don't know yet how to take the leap if they really want to jump out full time. They kind of want to still stay in their zone of comfort, have their regular income, and know that they can do something that they're good at, which is then your hospital work or your office work. And some of you just are never going to be ready to leave it, which is completely fine, and we need you there. So don't feel bad about it. Stay, right? Great. But an interesting thing for many of us is to find out if we could have an advisory board role on the side at a startup, for example, or a scale-up, or an established company, an investor, and advising them. I have a few of those on the investing side, on the startup side. I have managed other medical advisors, and so I've seen the whole thing. And I just wanted to share with you a couple of things. Number one, of course, they're interested in you because of your medical knowledge, because you can bring in more context to what they're doing. You can help them not waste time on things that add no value. You can talk to the evidence aspects of it. What evidence is there? What evidence will you need to generate? How can you generate that evidence in an effective manner? You are there for the subject matter expertise in terms of your specialty. So I don't know, does it make sense to develop feature X, Y, or Z, given that the disease you're focused on often requires ABC, right? And so you can help them really refine the things that add value from a clinical perspective. You can also give them an idea of how they need to appear in front of clinicians, whether that is in the way they write, in the way they position their brand, or whatever else, where they appear, which conferences, and so on. So giving them some guidance on that is really important. And just bringing in the medical reasoning that people who do not have a medical background but want to do something in healthcare really, really need. And most of the serious entrepreneurs and managers and investors, they know their limitations and they know that they need to ask somebody like you. However, just having that medical knowledge in and of itself usually will not make it. They will expect you to be able to connect your knowledge to the knowledge that is relevant to them. So for example, do you understand how a digital product is being made? How do they prioritize different features? How do they assess if something works? What are the things that matter outside of the medical perspective? So, for example, user experience can be hugely important, which is something that doctors typically don't need to think about, right? But if you know enough about that you can talk to somebody who thinks in terms of user experience, or thinks in financial terms, or in product management terms, or as a data scientist, that you know just enough about their field that you can have an eye-level conversation with them. You do not need to know exactly how they work, what they've learned. This is why they have their expertise, but you need to be able to interface. And that means getting foundational knowledge, taking an online course on product management, on design thinking, on data science, on management, on finance, or whatever else. Of course you can't, if you can do all of these things, frankly, that's good. Take it as a multi-year journey to gradually grow your expertise. It will be worth it. But if you want something in the short term, just try to prioritize based on what you see other advisors on other startups, medical advisors, what they bring as additional competence, and try to emulate that and to prioritize. Or if you see founders that you talk to, or investors or managers or whatever it is, then just ask them, what do you think somebody like me would need to learn on top in order to become a relevant partner for you? So there's this, right? It's I would call it these translational skills. Just like we have it from bench to bedside, there's also from bedside to business, so to speak. Once you have that sorted, there is still another thing that they would like to see, and that is the clout that you have within your community. If you did not really make a name for yourself so there's no big influence, there's no gravitas, then, and no network, no access, then you can still make it, but you will have to make a really strong case. And typically you can only make that case if people really know you as a person, not just sending somebody a message on LinkedIn or having published one or two things here and there. It's not going to be enough. You really should be socializing and showing your value on the first two aspects that I just outlined, so that they see, okay, maybe not the most famous doctor, but I really like how she thinks. And I really like how he can communicate with my team on different medical topics, empowering them to really make use of my knowledge rather than intimidating them, for example. But you should work towards that, right? Become known in the societies, the medical societies that are relevant to you. Try to publish. It doesn't have to be just scientific publications, right? Get into the press. Create meaningful content. Don't do it as self-advertising. Try to just give knowledge for free as much as you can. And then people will come to you at some point without you even being aware of them. So I would say these are the key things to set yourself up for it. Now, the next question is, of course, how do you find them? One thing is to just scout. There are different newsletters, for example, that look at healthcare startups. See what's in your region. Often like some sort of proximity helps, geographic proximity helps, preferably at a regional, local level, so that you can really meet person to person, or at least at a national level, because then they feel like, okay, that person understands my regulatory environment, understand the culture of the doctors within the country that I'm working in, and all of that. And it's not too long of a commute to also meet in person, right? Or you could become an advisor, that's the other end, to a company that clearly is from a completely different region, and they now want to expand to your country. So play the I'm a local, I'm your guide, I'm your entry navigator card. And that typically then you would have to look for startups that are probably Series A, so a bit later stage funding. They already made it in their country or in their home region and now want to expand. So that mostly works, of course, if you are in an area where companies typically like to expand to, which can be Germany, UK, US. These are sort of very typical expansion spaces. But you will also find it in other smaller areas. But then if you are in a smaller country, try to maybe position yourself as somebody who can help with the region. And by position yourself, I don't mean fake it till you make it. I mean really try to establish the network also beyond your country in that region to truly become a good connector. And often you have conferences at a, for example, European level and so on, where that anyway happens. So then I would emphasize my presence at these more like regional, larger conferences rather than going very, very national. If you have to decide, if you can do both, do both. So that's one thing. Basically what I'm saying is subscribe to newsletters where they tell you about funding rounds. Strictly VC is one of those, for example, and just follow the startups that are getting funding, because they will likely be looking into expansion, whether it is a geographic expansion or expansion into new disease areas, and you could maybe become one of them. What I can tell you from my own experience is that as soon as you announce a fundraising round, you get flooded with people who want to sell you something without really caring what it is that you need. Thousands of people saying, oh, do you want to hire people? We're a great hiring agency. Oh, we are a software development firm. You can outsource your software development. Some start to be threatening. Oh, you need to make sure you're compliant with this and this, and we can help you. And are you sure you're compliant? And all of that. So that's really frustrating. So try to do something that's very mindful, where you say, hey, look, I've seen you have been working on this and this area, and I applaud you for this and this and this. Did you know that this could be really useful and potentially easy to expand in this other disease area? I'd be happy to help you with that, and just give first. Think about their value rather than selling yourself, If they really like you, they will make an offer. If they want to abuse your time and just take from you, you will know that very soon, and then you can just kill it. Then anyway, you probably don't want to be working with them in the first place. Get insights on who has just fundraised in an area that could be interesting for you. Think about how you could add value to them, and just give that value, and then see what happens. Secondly, it's much more interesting to discover somebody that you find impressive, and then reach out to them as an employer, or as a startup, as a founder, as an investor. So rather than you cold outreaching and offering yourself to somebody without really knowing what their need is, try to create content in your area. You can just put it up online for free on Medium, write little pieces, try to connect it to something that's interesting for people who are not just doctors, who are maybe business people, data scientists, and so on, around your field, so that you become discoverable and dare to be niche, dare to focus on the things that you are doing in your clinical day-to-day that you're mostly excited about. So then eventually somebody will say, hey, I've been reading your stuff, you've been doing such a great job, you really helped me already. I have this in this startup, or I'm an investor looking into this and this. Can we have a call? And then you start from there and you see what happens. That is particularly much stronger. It's called permission marketing, right? Where you basically, people give you the permission to market yourself to them, rather than you shoving it into their faces by sending like emails and follow-up emails and writing on LinkedIn as a cold outreach. They say it's a numbers game, but you're also ruining your reputation quite fast if people start to get a negative impression because you're just pushing your own agenda rather than really starting from their real needs. So that's one thing. And the final thing, frankly, the most important one, just hang out where these people are and just be there. Show up, share your story, have something that's clear about yourself. Don't make it complicated. Say, I'm a GP and I love to work on these and these disease areas, or my passion project is that I'm connecting different GP practices or whatever. And then maybe, say, to my earlier point, something else that that's not medical, right? So you say, well, I'm a GP and I've been studying a lot of finance recently, and I'm now implementing this here and here and here. And then you can also drop, if people ask you about it, right? You can drop that you are interested in working with startups. Maybe you have a reference, you've done that somewhere already. Maybe you can give a talk somewhere. What I wish entrepreneurs would know about clinical care. Something like that. Or how to talk to a doctor if you want to validate a product. You can give these types of talks somewhere regionally and be there for people. And then chances are that one or two will like you a lot and make you an offer. It will probably not be the biggest startup in the world. Something small. Maybe they will not make it at some point. It's not the point, right? You get to start to do something. You get to build a track record. You get to build experience, and also learn from their network, get access to their network, and then gradually expand further and further. And I think that is a most promising one, because these advisory board roles need a lot of trust. It's hard for people to assess the quality of a doctor. And so having some touch points beforehand makes you top of mind. So try to see that. If there's nothing in your region, look for online events and groups, or maybe take a time to travel somewhere. If you're going on a holiday somewhere, maybe you can combine that with something where you see an event on meetup.com or on a university or something like that. And you just spend one afternoon or evening there as you go about your vacation and exploring that very city. And then you will have touch points here and there, follow up on LinkedIn. That's really important, actually. Combining an offline presence where you give a talk, where you're physically present, and so on, and people can get to know you personally, with an online presence, because people will Google you afterwards. They will look you up, and then they will see, oh, this is interesting. They didn't even mention that. I kind of like that. And so you become more memorable over time. Good luck with that.